When he presents, the conflagrant high wind will blow the Mother Earth chaos. All biology became skeleton.
It's time to do.
So we're about 7 kits deep now into the Bandai Figurized Standard Amplified line of Yu-Gi-Oh! Model kits, and so far they've been all amazing. Kind of different grades of amazing, from fairly okay to absolutely fantastic, with the brilliant Millennium Puzzle, the Puzzle Box, the absolutely fantastic Exodia. The flying ones are a little bit on the rickety side, being the Winged Dragon of Ra and the Blue Eyes White Dragon, but all of which would look a little bit better if you put a little bit of time in and a little bit of paint. But for me, the best one so far is the one I'm taking a look at today. This is Obelisk The Tormentor. This kit right here is essentially absolutely perfect out of box. It looks so good. Obelisk always was, for me, one of the coolest Yu-Gi-Oh! Designs, definitely up there with Exodia and Slifer the Sky Dragon. And what Bandai have done with this kit is phenomenal. It builds so easy, the build is smooth. Overall, in the end, you get a fantastic model kit that has surprisingly good articulation. This is the full package right here. Anyway, if you do want one of your own, this video right here, as usual, would not be possible without those absolutely fantastic people over at HobbyLink Japan. I'll throw a link down there in the description. But let's wind back the clock a little bit to the build, which was a whole lot of fun. So first off, when it does come to the actual box itself, it is very, very beautiful. The picture of Obelisk looking great. I will mention that this is amplified. What the amplified there means is it's a little bit of a change from the original actual design of Obelisk. So this is a little bit more longer and sleeker and not the actual card design per se. Hence, the amplified aspect. When you bust this box open, it is absolutely huge, about the size of a master grade Gundam kit, but the plastic in here is very large part, so it means this isn't a master grade, well, amount of time you have to put into it. This is a very simple evening build that has so much brilliant payoff. Now, we'll mention the booklet in here, the manual, is pamphlet style that kind of opens in a fold out kind of way, which makes it a little bit awkward to actually use. It means you're always kind of folding it into position. Could be worse, could be better, but it is easy to follow, which is the most important thing. So first off, I will mention I don't necessarily follow the instructions per se while building these kits. I like to start from the ground up, so I started with the legs. The instructions suggest starting with the head, but I like to have something standing there. And speaking of standing there, these feet and the legs build up so nicely. You've just enough parts to get plenty of nice detail, but at the same time the build is nice and subtle. Everything just slips together perfectly, and even if you don't have a whole lot of experience building model kits, this one will be no issue whatsoever. Large parts that fit together very well, perfectly, and nothing is too difficult. It is simple at its core with huge payoff. You're building mainly the joints onto the leg parts. Most things are hollow for the most part, and although some little aspects in the legs do layer up, it's mainly single parts sandwiching together to make each of the elements on the kit. Moving up to the waist section of this then, and it's pretty much the same thing. Again, you just build the joints, pop a pair of Obelisk knickers onto that, and then you build the front and the rear armored section. Super simple, pops together easily. It gets a little bit more build heavy once you get up to the torso. Again, building joints, popping them inside of the actual torso itself. There's 3 elements to each of the shoulder joints to give you a nice range of motion inside of those. And then they sandwich inside the body and you layer the parts on top of that. You then build a core, which is just a few more parts including joints. Attach the ab section to the upper body section. Sandwich on some pecs, the clavicle, then the neck. All pretty simple. When it comes to the overall complexity and the depth of the build, the arms are probably the most involved. The shoulders are the usual Bandai 3-section build. You then build the 4-arm armor. You start getting some spikes in here. These are actual sharp spikes, so Bandai's not cutting corners or adding blunt edges onto this. You build up the upper arm, the elbow joint. The forearm has a few moving parts inside of it. You attach on the big forearm armor around back, some front armor. The shoulders are quite involved. There's a lot of layering to large segments, and we've got 2 big spikes, again sharp, that pop up onto the shoulders. The hands, like the rest of the build, are simple. We've got a left and a right, of course, and we have fists and widespread pointy fingered hands. They all pop together like so, pop onto the model like this, and we're getting pretty much all the way towards the finished build of Obelisk. Again, there's very little actual building to this particular kit, but the amount of payoff you get per piece is huge. The same goes for the head up here. You attach the back onto the front. That big gem-style dome into the top of his head, and the weirdest thing is you've got color-separated teeth in here. The teeth are tiny, a little bit difficult to get in, so I would recommend using the old blue tack on the end of a file or a pencil to actually push it in with. But if you can manage to get it in, it looks great, and the only thing I didn't really like about this particular head is the eye stickers. You do get 2 left and 2 right just in case you do screw up, but these lie a little bit funny on the eyes, and even though I tried to actually push them in so they actually wrap around the actual 3-dimensional eye itself, it didn't really work out, so I decided I was going to whip out some paints. If you're wondering how I painted these eyes, I just got some Warhammer paints. I went in with Lead Belcher for some silver, Stormhost for a lighter silver, then I got this Bal or Bale, depending on how you like to say it, red, which is a contrast paint which kind of lets the silver through slightly from below. Then I grabbed Carolberg Crimson Shade just to kind of put a little bit of a darker outline around the actual eye, and it kind of hides the bad paint job underneath, and it all worked out nicely. And while this was drying, it was time to move on to the wings. The wings on this kit are a very nice build. Bandai could have went simple, but they did add a little bit of articulation into these. So you just build up the spiky top part, and then you start building on the various little flap sections, which are 2 parts apiece and have a little bit of articulation inside of them. You do this about 3 times, add in a joint, that joint pops into a smaller joint, and then both of those just pop onto the back like so. You get a lot of nice payoff for not a lot of building all over this kit, wings included. So that does mean when you are finished with the build, it looks like this, and you can actually pose this up nicely, including opening up the wingspan somewhat to give it a little bit more presence. This is a very nice kit, and I only feel there is one kind of down point to it, which I will mention a little bit later on. Sure, I'll mention it right now. I wish it came with a stand, or was stand compatible for flying poses. Let's check out the aesthetics. So now jumping on into the aesthetics, and this right here is essentially what you get out of box. Now I did mention I did paint the eyes on this, but you can never see that from a distance. So this is essentially what you get out of box. Now this is an absolute beast of a model kit. Now, depending on where you're actually going to measure it to, you kind of get different results. I'm just going to go with the actual tippy top of the kit, which is the tips of the wings. This measures in at 11 inches or about 28 centimeters. So this is a very large model kit when built, and considering how little time it takes to build, that is impressive. But yeah, visually this kit right here is absolutely spectacular. When it comes to the amplified kits, I think this might be my favorite. That's all the Digimon ones, all the Yu-Gi-Oh ones. This one is just so impressive. They've pulled it off perfectly. Like I've already mentioned, this is an amplified design, which means it has been changed somewhat, so it won't exactly look like what you would have seen in the anime or on the cards. They've definitely thinned him down a little bit in the legs and the body a little bit, so he has more dynamic or amplified proportions, which looks so cool. All of the detail on here is really, really nice. The way they've split up all of the parts, that the lines just kind of fall into the natural lines or the, well, rock-looking musculature on Obelisk himself. This kit has been expertly designed. There's detail where there needs to be, no detail where there doesn't need to be, and it just has been pulled off so well. Now, when I was building this, I almost felt like there might have been 2 shades of blue in it, and I can't really tell if there is or not, because in some aspects, like the armor on the rear of the arms or up on the shoulders or different aspects like that, it does look a little lighter to me, but I'm not sure if that's just the way it's catching the light or if the kind of ridged, rocky looking parts are a darker plastic or not. But that's what's so nice about this. It catches the light and the shadow so well. If you throw this into some dynamic light, it just bounces around with the light and contrast with those absolutely phenomenal, almost geology looking patterns running through its rock-like body. This thing just looks incredible. If you're getting close to the face, you get detail where detail needs to be, which of course is the teeth, the eyes, and that gem in the forehead. I will mention once again, I did paint the eyes, so depending on if you do that or the stickers, you'll get a slightly different result. But yeah, what can I say? Overall, the detailing and everything looks spectacular. Once again, just getting in a little bit closer to the head. The articulation on this is nice, but as you'd expect with one of these kits, it is somewhat mildly on the limited side, and some parts are a little bit stiffer than others. But overall, it's performing quite well, but we'll test that stuff later on. But yeah, the face on this looks intense. Of course, with any of these sort of kits, the best results definitely always come with a little bit of paint, and this is a kit that will take paint so perfectly. Even if you're just going to do something simple like a darker shade and then dry brushing on some highlights, this has all the detail and all the surfaces that you'd ever need for something like that. This is absolutely incredible. So when it does come to what I call the model kit sins, which is like the nub marks, the mold lines and the seam lines, this kit gets away from it quite well. I thought it was nubbing up a little bit while I was actually building this, but the thing is it's such a soft plastic. If you actually find a nub, let's see if I can find a nub. There are a few on there, definitely, I do know that. I did just single snip a lot of this off of the runner, which is not what you should do. But yeah, there we go. We've got one right there on the side of the foot. I actually find with soft plastic like this, you can almost like just give it a quick old rub with your nail and you'll kind of get rid of at least the white aspect of the stressing. But yeah, like I mentioned, this kit right here does clock in at a juicy 11 inches, but what does that really mean? So it's size comparison time. If we're talking Gundam model kits, there's a high grade Gundam, there's a real grade Gundam, a master grade Gundam, and a perfect grade Gundam. So as you can see, it clocks in between a master grade and a perfect grade. In case Gundam kits don't mean anything to you, there it is beside the Figma Yami Yugi, a pop-up parade, Space Marine, Big Tyrannid, a Funko Pop, a Big Funko Pop, and a Monster Can. Finally then, there it is beside two other Figurized Standard Amplified Yu-Gi-Oh! Kits, being the Exodia one on the left and the Winged Dragon of Ra on the right. Hopefully we will be getting the Slifer sometime in the future. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's everything that comes with the Figurized Standard Amplified Obelisk The Tormentor. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot, just hand options. So what we've gotten here is a pair of fists and a pair of widespread open hands. And that's it. Let's check them out. So when it does come to the hands in here, we've got two pairs. We've got the fists, which I will admit have a little bit of a mildly cut corner right here on the side, where the actual thumb and the index finger attach. It does look a little bit on the funny side, but besides that, overly, or should I say overall, a very nice design. For me, the winner in here definitely has to be the widespread hands. They're nice, powerful looking. I will admit though, there is a little bit of a seam running down them where the hands are attached together because they are made of 3 pieces. That's 2 on the actual hand itself and the rear section. But overall, looking nice and vicious. The swapping of the hands when you want to swap them out is pretty simple to just pull off just like so. They are ball joint attachment, and then you just pop the alternate one on like that. So they hold on nice and well, no issues whatsoever. So finally now on to the articulation, and this thing's pretty big, so it's kind of hard to keep it in frame while actually being able to reach it. And I'm going to start with the usual pose, but first the usual comment on the build. Now these kits are a little bit on the floppy side, especially a little while after building. So these are more of a build and display as opposed to a, well, build and play sort of kit. So even though it does have articulation, and some of it is quite nice, they don't really, well, happily take to being posed too much. Again, best for display. Pose time. So getting this into the usual pose, and as you can see, it doesn't really take posing too well. The joints are likely to pop. It didn't pop at this point, but when I was posing it into the crouch earlier on, the hip popped. During doing this, the shoulder and the hand popped, so they don't take to being hyperextended too well. Overall, what you get in the end is a very simple pose, but it does do quite well when you do take the amplified kits into consideration. It is nice, it's not too crazy, but it does pull off some poses. So if you do want the obelisk for some poses, it will do them. It's just not too happy when it is doing them and can pop apart and loosen up over time. Again, this kit is best for display, not necessarily for play. So now moving into the actual full articulation, and the reason I'm removing parts in order to do it is because they can kind of get a little bit on the awkward side and a lot of clashing, but I will pop them back on in a sec. When it comes to the neck, we do have a little bit in the actual neck itself. As you can see, it's just a little. We've got side to side, although it is a little bit stiff, so that's all you can look up, all you can look down. The shoulders are attached on with a ball joint, which is kind of inclined to pop due to the leverage. That's why I had them off. The shoulder is slightly independent, so you can kind of teeter it like so. No back and forward, just up and down. The arm has some nice little kind of moving aspects that could be a little bit more secure. So when you do actually get the arm all the way up, you can usually move that little section out. There it is all the way down, and you're not really going to get this to spin all the way around without a little bit of a kind of hiccup here and there. It can spin all the way around, but again, likes to pop. The ball joint does give you a little bit of motion in there. We do have rotation at the upper arm, and you can get that to go all the way around, besides, again, clashing parts. There is the bend at the elbow, so not too bad. Again, quite likely to fall apart. Trying that once again without the loss of a hand. So there we go, that is the bend. It is somewhat double jointed, and it is a nice bend. What we've got right here is a ball joint. There goes the arm. I lost a butt flap. Oh no, a hand. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop attaching things back on. I was going to drive me absolutely demented. But yeah, this part can move out, but is likely to pop off. It's got a double C-clip, and C-clips aren't great. This bit can move out ever so slightly. That's not on a C-clip, so it does a little better. Ab crunch-wise, we get that to the front, that to the back, so not a whole lot. We do have pretty much full rotation in the waist right here, but it's complaining a little bit. The front and rear kind of crotch bit are on ball joints again. These are very, very, very likely to just do that on you. When it comes to the kicks, there it is all the way up to the front. It kind of swings out to the outside because it's kind of going around this arc right here. So back and forward, just like that. There's a little bit of wiggle because there's a ball joint inside of here. As for the splits, that's about what you're going to get out of it. The knee bend then is quite nice. One more time, all the way down and all the way up. The ankle is decent enough too, so there it is, down, all the way up and down. There is side to side, but it's kind of one of those funny ones that rotates it instead of actually fully tilting it. And we do have a bend at the toe. So as you can see, there's some critical holding together issues in here. Oh, I forgot to mention the wings. The wings are quite nice, so they can flap just like that. They do have quite the wingspan, and you can collapse them in just like so for that typical obelisk kind of look. So once again, this is a kit that is most definitely for display, not for play, because it likes to just kind of shed its parts. You could try to tighten them up, but they're mainly ball joints and C-clips, sort of things that don't really hold on any better when tight, but it will stand up a little bit better if you do tighten up certain things, like the hips. But it's the most solid once you build it out of box. The more you move it, not so much, so I recommend not moving it too much. So anyway, that right there is it for the review of the Figurized Standard Amplified Obelisk The Tormentor. So it's Tormentor in a lot of different kind of ways. If you try to pose this, you will be tormented. Overall, this kit's visuals are its strongest aspect. It does look incredible. There's lots of nice facets to all the kind of stone-like musculature. The silhouette is perfect, and it is obelisk through and through. It's almost 11 inches tall if you're including the wings, so if you do pop this up on a shelf, it will look magnificent in any Yu-Gi-Oh! Display. Definitely if you've got some cards to go with it. However, when it does get onto the other aspects, when it comes to accessories, there are really no accessories inside the box. We've got some hands, and there isn't really any kind of stand compatibility here, so you wouldn't really be able to pose it up in the air, which is a little sad because the articulation does kind of lean towards nice aerial poses. And speaking of the articulation is alright, but this kit does not like being posed and falls apart a lot. Again, display, not play, and it looks fantastic up on a shelf. Anyway, as usual, I got this off Hobby Link Japan, so if you're looking for some model kits, you'll find some down there in that link below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more model kit reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, all these videos on here would not be possible without each and every one of you guys watching these videos, so thank you so much. And special thanks to those of you who are helping out over on the Patreon, as well as on the channel members, including Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Joe or G, 59061, Scotty Thomas, Simon, and Van Fawn.